Good morning, everyone. Let me introduce myself. My name is Nisit Pantamit. I'm head of Center for ASEAN Studies, Chiang Mai University. Sawadee krap and welcome to Chiang Mai. So it's such a great honor to be here this morning to welcome distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. And this is a great opportunity. This year, our workshop, which is very right here to have the Master of Ceremony and the host of the Network of ASEAN-China Think-Tanks or NACT Working Group Meeting in Chiang Mai 2026. This year, our focus is incredibly timely and visual: green industrializations and critical minerals, avoiding a new resource trap in ASEAN-China green supply chains. Over the next 2 days, starting from today, we will engage in critical dialogues, share insights, and strengthen our regional cooperation. To officiate our today's meeting, it is my privilege to introduce our distinguished speakers for the opening ceremonies and open the remarks. First, please welcome Ms. Pennapha Kanchana, Inspector for the Ministry of Higher Education, Science, Research and Innovation, representing NACT Thailand. Please a round to applause.
Professor of Practice Dr. Charin Techa Pha, Professor Yang Zhou, Mr. Liu Changpin, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is my great pleasure to be here with you all today for the 2026 NACT Working Group meeting on clean industrialization and critical mineral, avoiding a new resource trap in Asia-China green supply chains. On behalf of the Ministry of Higher Education, Science, Research and Innovation, as NACT Thailand, I would like to take this opportunity to welcome all of you to Chiang Mai, one of the most popular tourist destinations. It is rich in culture, ancient temples, delicious northern Thai cuisine, all of which you will be able to experience during your stay in Chiang Mai. Before I go further, please allow me to thank our graded co-hosts for this event, China Foreign Affairs University and Chiang Mai University, for your remarkable contribution and dedication. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are together in an important time to review and discuss a global issue. I believe that ASEAN and China are moving forward in the right direction with a shared focus on clean energy and sustainable technology to support economic growth. Critical minerals are essential in the transition to clean industrialization by supporting key technologies such as electric vehicles, batteries, and renewable energy. For ASEAN, our region has great potential to become a key partner in the global clean economy. By working together, we can create greater value for this resource, strengthen our industry, create quality jobs, and promote sustainable and inclusive growth that benefit all our people. For Thailand, the Ministry of Higher Education, Science, Research and Innovation has played an important role in supporting green industrialization in every dimension. Through the current higher education policy, the Ministry has promoted the development of human capital, research and innovation, and collaboration between universities and industry in order to support the transition toward the sustainable clean economy. At the same time, universities are encouraged to work closely with the industry in providing reskill and upskill opportunity for existing the workforce This initiative will enhance Thailand's competitiveness in the global clean economy. Ladies and gentlemen, before I conclude, let me once again express my sincere appreciation to our co-hosts, NACT China and Chiang Mai University, for their valuable support and contributions. My thanks also go to Consulate General of the People's Republic of China in Chiang Mai for your presence here today. Last but not least, I would like to thank all distinguished delegates and experts from ASEAN and China for your active participants. I wish you all productive discussion and valuable exchange and pleasant stay here in Chiang Mai. Thank you. ขอบคุณค่ะ
Thank you very much, Ms. Penapa, for setting such an inspirational tone for today's meeting. Next, I would like to invite Professor of Practice, Dr. Chrin Techa Phan, the Vice President of Chiang Mai University, to deliver his remarks. Please, Professor.
Thank you very much, Inspector General of the Ministry that we call Mahesi, and also for the Mr. Lu Xiangpin, Consul Attaché of the People's Republic of China in Chiang Mai, Professor Yang Ye, Deputy Director of the Institute of Asian Studies, China Foreign Affairs University, distinguished delegates, esteemed college, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is my great pleasure to be here to warm welcome all of you to Chiang Mai for such important event for the 2026 NACT Working Group meeting on green industrialization and critical minerals. That is very hot issue now today. On behalf of Chiang Mai University, I extend our warmest welcome and sincere appreciation to NACT China and NACT Thailand for co-hosting this important event today. Your presence today reflects the strong partnership between ASEAN and China, as well as our shared commitment to sustainable and inclusive regional development. This meeting comes at a particularly important time as ASEAN and China contribute to advance the green transition. Also, the demand for critical minerals or the rare earth and has grown rapidly, driven by the expansion of the industry, especially for the electric vehicle, the battery production, and for the renewable energy. These developments present significant opportunities for us and also for our countries for economic cooperation and industrial development across our region. At the same time, they also remind us that sustainable development is not only about expanding production or the industrialization only, but also we need to concern about the environment, the sustainability, to create the long-term value. Green industrialization should be enable countries to strengthen their industrial capabilities, also promote technology transfer, develop skill of the human resources. As the Khun Penapa said, that is very important for the university responsibility about this, for the reskill and the upskill also. This will come to the economic cooperation and industrial development across our region. The theme of working group today, very important, green industrialization and critical minerals, that also have the two big keywords, important two keywords, green industrialization, and also that we can concern about the critical of the mineral or the rare earth or something that in related to the industry. Therefore, is on the timely and highly relevant, so that it's encouraged us to reflect on how ASEAN and China can work together to build resilient and sustainable supply chains while ensuring that the benefit of the green economy and share more fairly across the regions. As a leading academic institution in this area. Chiang Mai University believes that university have an important role to play the supporting evidence-based, such as the policy making and regional cooperation through research, academic dialogue, and international cooperation. We here can contribute meaningful knowledge that helps shape practical and forward-looking policy recommendations. That's very important, that we need the white paper, the green paper, to support for the government and also for the ASEAN and China cooperation in the near future. I'm confident that today's discussion will provide valuable insight, strengthen mutual understanding, and further enhance more stronger of the ASEAN-China cooperation in promoting sustainable and inclusive green development. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Chrin, for the warm welcome on behalf of Chiang Mai University. And now is my honor to welcome Consular Attaché Lu Changpin from the General Consul of People's Republic of China in Chiang Mai. Sir, please.
Good morning, Professor of Practice, Dr. Charing Techapan, Ms. Panapa Kachana, Inspector General. Yes, Professor Yang Yue, distinguished experts and scholars, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. And it is a great honor to be entrusted by the Consul General Chen Haiping to attend this 2026 China-ASEAN NACT work meeting. And welcome to Chiang Mai to all the experts and scholars nominated by the NACT member countries. This conference focuses on the green industrialization and critical minerals, avoiding a new resource trap in ASEAN-China green supply chain. This theme is precise, programmatic, and highly relevant. With accelerated global green transformation, key minerals has become the core support for the development of new energy and low-carbon industries, and a strategic cornerstone for the stable operation of regional green supply chains and industrial chains. Against this backdrop, discussing how to leverage green industrialization transformation to regulate the development and utilization of key minerals, avoid resource independence traps, and strengthen the security of regional grain supply chains is timely and crucial. China and ASEAN are geographically connected and share a common future, making them natural partners on the path of green development. This year marks the 5th anniversary of the establishment of China-ASEAN Comprehensive Strategic Partnership, and China will work with ASEAN to carry out, and have already carried out, a series of celebratory activities in various fields, including politics, economy and trade, environment and culture. For a long time, bilateral economy and trade connectivity and industrial cooperation have continued to deepen, with both sides being each other's largest trading partners. The implementation of the RCEP and the upgrading of the China-ASEAN Free Trade Agreement have built a highly qualitative platform for regional green industry cooperation and low-carbon trade development, and laid a solid foundation for the cross-border cooperation in key minerals and the alignment of the green production capacity. China is willing to continue to be guided by the 4 global initiatives, work with ASEAN to build 5 major homes, jointly uphold multilateralism, mean regional peace and stability, promote open cooperation, foster innovation and green empowerment, and promote the building of a closer China-ASEAN community with a shared future. The Consul General of People's Republic of China in Chiang Mai will also, as always, play its role as a bridge and a link, fully supporting the deepening of exchanges and cooperation between the academy and industrial on both sides, hoping China-ASEAN green cooperation to go deeper and more practical, and jointly build a higher-level China-ASEAN strategic partnership. Finally, I wish this conference a complete success. Thank you.
Thank you, Consular Attaché Lu Changpin from General Consuls of Republic of China in Chiang Mai. So last but certainly not least, let us welcome Professor Yang Ye, Deputy Director of the Institute of ASEAN Study, representing NACT China. Professor Yang, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor. Distinguished Ms. Panapa Kanchana, Inspector General, distinguished Professor and Vice President Dr. Charan Tachapun, distinguished Mr. Lu Shangbin, dear colleagues and friends, good morning. It's my great honor and pleasure to welcome you to NACT Working Group meeting on grain. So we gather at this critical juncture where the global transition to clean energy converges with regional economic cooperation between China and ASEAN countries. The world faces an unprecedented transformation in the energy landscape. Clean energy technologies depend on a set of critical minerals with distinct functional uses. Copper underpins electricity networks and power systems. Lithium, cobalt, and graphite are essential for batteries in EV and energy storage. Nickel is used in renewable power generation and hydrogen technologies. And rare earth elements are vital for permanent magnets in EV and wind turbines. Over the next quarter century, demand for many of these critical minerals is projected to increase significantly. This creates both opportunities and challenges that demand our collective efforts and attention. ASEAN and China have long-standing traditions of cooperation in the mining sector. The ASEAN-China Mining Cooperation Forum of 2025 held in Nanning, Guangxi Province, established consensus on promoting green mining, emphasizing the need to abandon extensive and low-end mining models and achieve green sustainable development. Since RCEP entered into force, trade costs among member countries have been further reduced, enabling companies to see tangible benefits from deeper industrial chain cooperation. ASEAN and China become each other's largest trading partner, and the ASEAN-China Free Trade Agreement has upgraded to 3.0, so covering digital economy, green economy, and other fields, deepening rural alignments. However, our shared future depends on addressing a fundamental concern: the risk of falling into what international development literature calls the resource trap. Research indicates that mineral-rich nations can face vulnerabilities when mineral dependence becomes excessive and economies fail to diversify. In some cases, mineral exports have comprised over 80% of a country's total exports, raising concerns about sustainable development pathways. The effectiveness and eventual success of multi-stakeholder initiatives in the extractive sector require stronger market incentives and regulation to ensure that extractive activities result in positive development outcomes. China recognizes these concerns and has taken concrete steps to promote responsible critical mineral supply chains. As the world's largest mineral production, consumption, and trading country, China has proposed the Green Minerals International Economic and Trade Cooperation Initiative in G20 Leaders Summit last year. Aiming to promote global transformation and sustainable development in the mineral sector, and maintain stable global production and supply chains. China continues to pursue high-level opening up, leverage its mineral reserves and advanced technical advantages, strengthen dialogue and communication with more countries, and achieve complementary advantages. In line with this vision, China's approach emphasizes, first, green industrialization. Developing grain mining is a common responsibility of governments and enterprises worldwide. China will, under the guidance of scientific development concepts, further improve institutional mechanisms, strengthen geological exploration, promote resource conservation, protect mining environments, and deepen international cooperation in the mineral exploration and development sectors. We must genuinely break away from traditional extensive development modes based on excessive consumption of environment, energy, and resources. Second, regional complementarity and collaboration. China and ASEAN countries possess strong complementary characteristics in mineral resources. Parties should strengthen policy dialogue, technical coordination, and market linkage to jointly advance green, low carbon, and intelligent development of the mining sector. This means moving beyond raw material extraction toward building local value chains through beneficiation, processing, and manufacturing. And thirdly, industrial upgrading and value addition. To avoid becoming mere exporters of unprocessed raw materials, ASEAN and China should explore opportunities for joint investment in downstream processing facilities. Some African countries have already implemented lithium beneficiation policies, prohibiting export of raw concentrates. Similar approaches can benefit Southeast Asian resource-rich countries seeking to maximize domestic value from their endowments. And number 4, environmental stewardship. Green mining requires integrating environmental protection considerations throughout the entire exploration and development process, implementing requirements for mine development and utilization, ecological restoration, and environmental protection to improve resource utilization and protection levels. So with that, please allow me to express my gratitude to all the participants for your commitment to advancing this important agenda. And the path forward is not without challenges, but through open dialogue, shared principles, and concrete actions, we can forge a new model of green industrialization that transcends the pitfalls of the resource trap and delivers prosperity for all stakeholders in ASEAN-China cooperation. Finally, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank NACT Thailand for co-hosting this important event and Chiang Mai University for your meticulous organizations and preparations. And I wish everyone here enjoy today's discussions and wish this event a great success. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Yang Ye, for very conclusion and valuable conclusion about this workshop. July 20, 2026, And we would like to give this kind of opportunity to big round of applause to all of distinguished speakers for this insightful open remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, before we go into the next step of the first academic session, may I request all distinguished guests and participants to join us and in front of the group and have a group photos together in front of this classroom, okay? And after that, we will have 20-minute coffee break and refreshment, and then we come back. Thank you so much and see you outside, okay? Thank you. Once again, welcome everyone, or welcome back to the session, the first session. It's a pleasure to hand over the floor to our moderator, Assistant Professor Dr. Sininat Somchip, Director of the ASEAN Study Center, Faculty of Economics, Chiang Mai, not Chiang Mai, Chulalongkorn University. Dr. Sininat will take the lead of the first session. So, Dr. Sininat, stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nisit. So, good morning again. Welcome back to the first session. So for this session here, we have three distinguished speakers, one from China, the second from Indonesia, and the third one from Laos. So you will hear the experience from the three countries in terms of the, like green supply chain and also the critical mineral. So let me start by inviting our first presenter. We have Associate Professor Tong Liang, Institute of Asian Study, China Foreign Affairs University on NACT China. He will present on China green supply chain, building, and regional cooperation with neighboring country. Professor Tong, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. It is a great honor for me to be here to discuss a topic of profound importance in our region, China's green supply chain development and China-ASEAN cooperation. As we stand at crossroads of global low-carbon transition, green supply chains have emerged as a critical engine for driving sustainable development, enhancing industrial competitiveness, and ensuring the resilience of our economies. Today, I will explore China's approach in building its green supply chain ecosystem and the opportunities this presents for deepening cooperation with ASEAN countries. And I will structure the discussion around 5 key sections. First, I will start by examining the current development of China green supply chain. And then I will delve into the key progress achieved in various aspects. Next, I will analyze the supporting legal and policy system. And I will then turn to the challenges and the prospects. Following that, I will explore implications for China and ASEAN cooperation. So let's begin with the first section. Green supply chain are a core tenet of China's national green development strategy, famously defined as the principle that called Lucy water and large mountains are invaluable assets. These are very famous saying in China. Those strategic positioned as a key vehicle for realizing our ambitious dual carbon goals. That means carbon peaking and carbon neutrality. By building our green supply chain, we aim to reduce resource consumption and pollution at the source, thereby transforming green development into a core industrial competitive advantage. As supply chain activities are estimated to account around 60% of global carbon emissions. So this is very important to tackle with. A key driver in this process is China's SOEs, China's central state-owned enterprises. They serve as the main force in developing green supply chains. A pivotal guiding document in this regard is the Guidelines for Development of Green and Low Carbon Supply Chain by Central SOEs, just issued by the State-Owned Asset Supervision and Administration Commission, the SASAC, in this year. This document provides a comprehensive operational framework that not only drives the green upgrade of our industry, but also serve as an valuable reference for China's international green cooperation. On the global stage, we are also witnessing a quite rapid shift in trade rules towards green and low carbon development. The famous EU's CBAM, the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, are raising the bar for carbon transparency and compliance. In this context, the complementary advantage between China and ASEAN countries became strategically vital. ASEAN is rich in critical minerals such as nickel, rare earth, and bauxite, and which are essential for low-carbon industries for the EVs and the renewables. China, on the other hand, boasts advanced manufacturing capacity, green technology, and extensive supply chain management experience. This synergy makes our cooperation crucial for safeguarding East Asia critical mineral security and advancing the regional green transition. So now let's move to the second section. First, I would like to talk about this main progress. The first is we have made significant headway in developing standard systems. We have been building a systematic product carbon footprint management system, aligning our technical specification with international standards. And by the end of last year, we have issued 15 national standards and over 200 industrial standards, covering major energy-intensive industries and the pivotal export product categories. And the second is our transition towards green logistics is well underway. The green freight distribution program has been adopted in 77 pilot cities, establishing more efficient and low-carbon distribution system in China. It's quite well developed. And the adoption of the new energy logistic equipment is also accelerating, with sales reaching nearly 630,000 units just in last year, a quite significant rise year-on-year. And central SOEs such as Costco shipping are also heading the way. And furthermore, we have just adjusted our transport structure by promoting multimodal transport, such as shifting freight from road to rail or waterway, which is key to lowering the overall carbon footprint of the logistic sector. Third, digital and intelligent technology are playing an increasingly important role. Central SOEs are integrating cutting-edge technologies like big data, blockchain, and AI into their operation. And importantly, we have established information sharing platforms to support small and medium-sized enterprises, the SMEs, helping them overcome technical hurdles in carbon accounting and building a more coordinated and efficient green supply chain ecosystem. Fourth, we have established a multi-tiered supporting platform system. At the national level, key platforms like the Green Manufacturing Public Service Platform and the Industrial Product Carbon Footprint Platform provides essential infrastructure. At the industry level, led by SOEs, platforms such as China Industrial Carbon Emission Information System are connecting thousands of enterprises. And in some developed regions, like the Yangtze River Delta, they also have their own networks, like the CN100 with famous enterprises. Finally, China is also promoting its practice globally. At the end of last year, the G20 summit, we launched the Green Mining Initiative to foster international cooperation in sustainable mineral supply chain. Furthermore, through platforms such as China ASEAN Mining Cooperation Conference, we are translating these policies into concrete projects, strengthening regional green industrial partnerships. Now let's move to the third section. I will examine the legal and policy system that underpins China's green supply chain development. This system is multi-layered and comprehensive. At the top is the ecological and environmental code, which for the first time provides a legal basis, and the guidelines for central SOEs, as I mentioned just early, mandates full chain carbon control, and the guidelines for the product carbon footprint factor database sets clear targets for its development, and also some of the opinions on expanding green trade aim to align domestic rules with international standards, such as the EU CBAM. At the top, the enactment of the ecological and environmental code marks a watershed moment. This law effective just in this August, and dedicates an entire section to green and low carbon development. Crucially, it mandates the establishment of system for product carbon footprint accounting, labeling, and information disclosure, and providing a strong legal foundation for green supply chain governance in China. At the sector level, ministries like MEE and the Ministry of Commerce have issued specific plans to promote carbon footprint management and green trade. At the local level, we have our own experiences from provinces. Provinces from quite developed areas, they have their policies focused on export compliance. And some border provinces like Guangxi and Yunnan, they pilot cross-border green supply chain practices with ASEAN. And some inland provinces like Henan and Sichuan, they focus on their own strong industries. At the enterprise level, the guidelines for the central SOEs are quite pivotal. They mandate a whole chain coordination and a dynamic management system for suppliers, both on their green performance. I think the most important thing is goal setting. The guideline sets clear targets for 2030 and 2035, supported by pathways in digitalization, green finance, and international rule alignment. This provides a concrete implementation framework for these central SOEs. Despite this significant progress, China still faces many problems, challenges in developing its green supply chain system. And in this section, I will discuss these challenges and the future prospects. The first challenge is the gap between China's product carbon footprint MRV, aka monitoring, reporting, and the verification system, and international requirements such as CBAM. Differences in accounting methodology and data quality, as well as lack of mutual recognition, can increase compliance costs for Chinese enterprises in global market. And second, the small and the medium-sized enterprises, SMEs, faces significant challenges. Many of them struggle with financial constraints and lack technical capacity to implement those measures. And the weak data management capacities per data sharing kind of hinder the overall effectiveness of green governance efforts. And the third challenge is our carbon market limitation. The national carbon market has quite limited scope with key energy intensive sectors like steel not yet fully integrated, and also with some other problem like allocation mechanisms, and there's no enough price pressure to drive significant emission reduction, but we are thinking of more reforms. And fourth, there are challenges in policy implementation and coordination. Since China is huge, progress is uneven across regions and industries, and even in some interdepartmental coordination is not quite sufficient. A case in point is the extended producer responsibility system for power batteries, where traceability platforms and standards across different ministries have not been fully integrated. And the fifth is securing critical mineral from overseas, which presents significant challenge. Resource-rich countries often change their policies and creating uncertainties. Environmental and social conflicts can disrupt projects. And additionally, regulatory barriers in major markets like the US and the EU, such as their IRA and Critical Raw Material Act, CRMA, creates new hurdle for Chinese mining companies and threatening the stability of critical supply chains for our green industries. So let's move to the last part. Let's turn to the implication for China and ASEAN cooperation in this area. So I think there are several implications and prospects. The first prospect is to jointly build a new regional order for great trade. I think that is the foundation. The high-level implementation of RCEP provides a strong institutional foundation for aligning green supply chain standards between China and the ASEAN. And by working together, both sides can better address external challenges from the CBAM and enhance international competitiveness of regional products through standardized carbon data flows. And the second is to deepen our full value chain cooperation in critical mineral. This will help ASEAN countries avoid, as mentioned, the green resource curse by moving up the value chain from raw ore exports to local processing, and also by combining ASEAN's rich resources with China's advanced capability. And both sides can build a more resilient and sustainable regional green supply chain. And also, we need to strengthen some mechanisms such as China-ASEAN Mining Cooperation Conference. And they have already facilitated significant projects worth of billions of RMBs. And the third, I think, is to strengthen green trade, green finance, and technology empowerment. China should, or maybe can and should, to establish new green funds and to provide financial support to support ASEAN's green transition. And in terms of technology, China can transfer green technology, providing technical training, and export digital carbon management tools. This is very important. And this kind of capacity building approach will be beneficial to both sides. And the fourth is to advance industrial park, which is a key way to replicate and share green supply chain management models. Models such as two countries, twin parks, like in China and Malaysia and China in Indonesia. Those key initiatives should be served as models for cross-border cooperation. So in conclusion, deepening cooperation with ASEAN on green standards, critical minerals, green finance, and digital tools is pivotal for building a stable, efficient regional industry and supply network. This cooperation not only secures East Asia's green transition and the industrial edge, but also offers valuable practice for global green governance and sustainable development. So lastly, thank you for your attention. I hope this presentation has provided you with new information of China's progress and the prospects for cooperation with ASEAN. I look forward to your question and further discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Tong, for very insightful. And we have heard about the Chinese approach in terms of how to create the green supply chain management. And I think he mentioned a very important part in there. So SOE is one of the key players in kind of like this kind of development. To develop it, there are so many aspects that we have to think about in terms of, and I think the case of China here, Professor Tong mentioned about some progress that it can be a good example for other ASEAN country. And besides that, it's not only, like having development, but systematic should be there. The mechanism, multi-tier support, and the platform is very important to share the knowledge and best practice. Legal, for sure, we need it to have the strong foundation for those kind of development. And I think the experience from China already mentioned about how we can come to practice in all level, from country, sectoral, local, and also the enterprise. And once we go to the challenges one, so in terms of the supply chain, we talk about globally. So international alignment is one of the key part. SME, we have to think about how to help them. And when we come to the suggestion, I think he touched upon many important aspects already that, like how to build a new regional order for green trade, and also the financing is also very important. So I think with the first one, Professor Tong already lay out the structure, and we can continue further for, our discussion. I forgot to mention one thing, that let our three speakers present, and then we can discuss after that, okay? So by that one, let me moving on to the second speaker here. We have Dr. Harus Hanif. He is a lecturer at the Department of Policy and Government, Faculty of Social and Political Science, University Gadjah Mada, on NACT, Indonesia. He will present on the topic on the from mine to market, traceability, and the green supply chain in critical mineral. Dr. Hanif, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair, distinguished colleagues, and member of the Network of ASEAN-China Think-Tanks. It is a pleasure to me to present my initial draft of paper, actually, from mine to market, the traceability and the making of green supply chains in Indonesia nickel sectors, which emphasize some point to ensure Indonesia nickel-driven industrial transformation can support genuinely green supply chains of critical mineral and avoiding the risk of reproducing a new resource trap under the language of decarbonizations. In these presentations, I first examined the achievement of Indonesia nickel sector alongside with the socio-environmental and governance problem that have accompanied its rapid expansion. Then discuss why traceability has become increasingly important as a tool for the transparent, accountable, and green supply chain governance, including its opportunity and challenges in Indonesia perspective. Finally, reflect on how ASEAN and China can contribute to building more credible, interoperable, and sustainable regional traceability framework. My central argument is that traceability is a critical point to enhance the green supply chains of critical minerals, but it should be understood not merely as the technical instrument, rather than it is a strategic governance mechanisms that will shape how value, risk, and responsibility are distributed across ASEAN-China green supply chains. The global race toward a low carbon transition and clean energy technology has reshaped the demand and use of the nickel. The International Energy Agency Global Critical Mineral Outlook 2025 report mentioned that energy technology represented nearly 20% of the nickel's total demand in 2024, a share that is projected to almost double by 2050. Indonesia is the country with the largest nickel reserve in the world, has seized this opportunity through a strategic milestone in advancing its nickel industrial strategy. After nearly a decade of prohibiting raw material export and promoting downstreaming processing as the manifestations of resource nationalisms, Indonesia has emerged as a leading nickel producer, generating approximately 2.2 million metric ton and capturing 41% of global nickel refinery and processing share by 2024. To achieve this goal, the Indonesian government implemented a staged policy approach. The first stage start from 2009 to 2017, established the legal foundations through Law Number 429, which mandated a ban on raw material export and require domestic processing within 5 years. The second stage start from 2017 to 2019 introduced adjustment due to the fiscal constraint and delay in smelter constructions, which the government temporarily allowed export of low-grade nickel and West bauxite under strict conditions. And the third stages actually start from 2020, mark full enforcement of the nickel ore export ban and the stronger push for the downstreaming value addition, particularly for the electric vehicle battery industry. As the result, the downstreaming activities, particularly smelting and processing activities, have grown rapidly in Indonesia, dominated by Chinese investment that enjoy the fiscal and non-fiscal investment. According to the data released by Indonesian Nickel Entrepreneur Association, as of 2025, Indonesia had 173 ongoing nickel processing projects, consisting of 134 facilities using RKEF technology and 39 using HPL. Although most projects remain under construction or are in the process of obtaining permits, 65 RKF plants and 12 HPL plants have already begun commercial operations. In this development, although the Chinese investment in the nickel extraction is relatively limited, the Chinese companies dominate the smelting sectors, operating across various industrial parks, such as Indonesia Morowali Industrial Park and Indonesia Wedabai Industrial Park, approximately 75%, and about 98% of nickel products are exported to China. The Indonesian government provides both fiscal and non-fiscal incentives, such as corporate tax holiday of up to 100% for as long as 20 years, a 50 and 100% reduction in local government taxes, streamlined permit application processes, and special employment regulations. So what is the impact actually from these very rapid downstreaming strategies endorsed by the Indonesian government? The economic impact of nickel extraction in industry varies at the national and subnational levels. A study conducted by the LPM University of Indonesia highlighted the contribution of the nickel industry to national economic growth is relatively insignificant, since the downstreaming process focused mainly on lower value-added products. However, at the regional level or subnational level, the effects are far more pronounced. The three nickel-rich provinces in Indonesia have shown remarkable gross domestic product growth, with the North Maluku achieving the highest rates, followed by Central Sulawesi province and Southeast Sulawesi province. Unfortunately, nickel extraction and smelting have not only demonstrated significant accomplishment, but have also given rise to ranks of socio-environmental problems and challenges. Deforestation rates have surged in the region affected by nickel mining and smelter construction, which occupy an average of 33 to 63 square kilometers. Another study also mentioned that villages near nickel mining in the Sulawesi Island found that while there were some improvement in infrastructure and living conditions, these benefits were overshadowed by a decline of environmental health quality. This decline has contributed to ecological disaster such as flooding, landslide in areas surrounding extraction site and nickel industrial park. The rapid economic growth in the three major nickel producing provinces has been accompanied by rising poverty and inequalities. In sum, the impact of the nickel extraction and processing are complex and deeply interlinked, encompassing social conflict, human rights violations, health problems, severe air pollution, and other forms of environmental degradations. Thus, the paradox of Indonesian nickel sector performance has intensified call for stronger traceability. The ability to identify and verify a mineral origins, chains of custody, and transformation over time, and to attach ESG data like emissions, labor conditions, community impact, and governance to that material as it moves from mine to end use. This is crucial for three reasons. First, traceability enables material-specific ESG data by linking environmental and social impact directly to the physical mineral, rather than relying on aggregated reporting that obscures clean and dirty input. The second, it supports risk-based due diligence by helping companies and regulators identify and respond to high-risk sites, supply routes, intermediary. It is in line with the OECD and IEA guidance. Third, it has become condition for market access, actually, as regulations such as the EU Battery Regulations, EU Critical Raw Material Acts, and US Inflation Reduction Act increasingly require traceability and ESG compliance. In this sense, traceability functions as the infrastructure that make ESG claim auditable at the level of the commodity itself, not just the company. So when there is a very high call for the traceability and compliance and ESG compliance, how the government and other actors respond to these calls. First, from the Indonesian perspective, as the producer countries, there are both opportunities and challenges in strengthening traceability. A recent study by the National Indonesian Government, National Economic Council, and the World Resource Institute highlighted a significant, what we call it, traceability gap. While systems for tracking legal compliance are in place, ESG-oriented mine-to-market traceability remain limited in Indonesia. This is reflected in several indicators. First, Indonesia ESG regulatory framework aligned with only 39 to 51% of the three major global standard, International Finance Corporation Performance Standard, Initiative of Responsible Mining Assurance, and the Copal Mark. Second, the most substantial gap, reaching up to 96%, are found in the social pillar, particularly concerning indigenous rights and land governance. The government also actually has initiated effort to enhance and expand the role of the, what we call it, the Simbara, the coal and mining information system. This integrated digital community governance platform, initially implemented in the coal sector, is being extended to cover transition mineral as formalized by presidential regulations in 2025. Simbara enable real-time cross-ministerial monitoring across the mineral value chains, from extraction to the processing to export, and is supported by an automatic enforcement mechanism. We call it auto-block mechanism that can block non-compliant activities. However, there is no single consensus on the importance of scope of traceability in Indonesia because of different actors hold varying perspectives. At the same time, compliance with the traceability mechanism and ESG standard remain complex, actually. Different buyer and market also impose varying requirements, resulting in fragmented and overlapping standard landscape. So the government of Indonesia position can be seen in its mapping initiative, such as those conducted by National Economic Council, as well as the development of systems like Simbara. More broadly, the Indonesian government is undertaking effort to align existing regulation with global standard, recognizing that strong demand from international buyers and investors require the nickel industry to comply with the sustainability requirement. This alignment is also necessary to position Indonesia as a responsible and sustainable nickel supplier in the global market. The civil society organization in Indonesia also have calling for the stronger enforcement of traceability and ESG compliance. They argue that although the government mandated the environmental impact assessment during the licensing process, conduct environmental audit during operation, then implement the performance assessment of environmental management, the enforcement remain weak. The lack of transparent and rigorous environmental assessment and monitoring has contributed to poor environmental management and adequate mitigation and negative impact. Business response, however, are mixed. Some large companies, including Vale Indonesia, operating in Sorowako, and Harita, has responded to the public pressure by expressing interest in complying with the Initiative for Responsible Mining Assurance, or IRMA. In contrast, other companies argue that compliance with the traceability and ESG standard will increase production and operational costs, as noted by the Indonesia Nickel Entrepreneur Associations. Moreover, there are limited economic incentives for the compliance, as the price differential between ESG compliant and non-compliant nickel remain minimal, while global nickel price itself have been declining currently. Thus, the industry association such as APNI and the Indonesia Mining Expert Association have therefore called for the ESG standard that are tailored for the Indonesia specific context. They emphasize that the need to align such standard with the existing national environmental and social regulations, many of which already meet global benchmark. They claim that this approach will help avoid redundant compliance processes arising from the multiple and differing standards. At the same time, there are bilateral deals like Indonesia-European Union's Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, or EU-CEPA, and US-Indonesia Reciprocal Trade Agreements create alternative routes for Indonesia nickel to access key markets that are based on the state-to-state commitment rather than on voluntary schemes such as IRMA or nickel mark. This bilateral deal can be both sidelines and implicitly lower the bar set by those voluntary traceability and sustainability initiatives. Many civil society and policy analysts already warned that this agreement risks locking in raw material access and investment protection without requiring the kind of strings, project-level ESG, traceability, and traceability performance demanded by IRMA or London Metal Exchange Low Carbon Nickel Benchmark. So, can Indonesia's nickel sector move beyond the primary reliance on domestic regulatory framework and enforcement mechanism to strengthen green supply chains by advancing a more substantive role for the ASEAN-China cooperations? The ASEAN Principle for the Sustainable Mineral Development represents an important milestone, I think, as the strengthening traceability within regional cooperations. However, developing interoperable and transparent traceability system for the critical mineral in ASEAN is not easy business, because intense political economic of extraction, uneven technical capacity, and fragmented institutions could lead to the absence of the open, standardized, and multi-stakeholder infrastructure such system require. Politically, the OPEC supply chain sustain rent-seeking and corruption, giving elite and companies incentive to retain control over data on license, production, and ownership. At the same time, government treat mineral data as the strategic asset, favoring national control and bilateral arrangement over regional data sharing, while commitment to deep transparency remain limited. Technically, data systems are fragmented and incompatible across agencies and the countries. It's also happened in Indonesia among the ministries in the governments, with no common standard for identify ESG indicator or chain of custody information. Capacity to deploy advanced traceability tool is unequal, and persistent problem of the data quality and verification undermine trust and interoperability. Institutionally, misaligns legal framework with intergovernmental agency coordinations and constrained civil participation or civic participation at domestic level can hinder the integration of reliable shared database. At the regional level, At the absence of the enforceable common standard, a preference for bilateralism and dependence on the external processing for the complicated effort to build interoperable system. Taken together, traceability in ASEAN emerged less as a neutral technical project than a contested socio-technical arrangement shaped by political interests, institutional fragmentation, and unequal capabilities. Last, China play a significant role in the shaping traceability institutionalization in ASEAN in two ways. First, of course, through as the buyer power. As the dominant purchaser and processor of ASEAN nickel, tin, and rare earth product, Chinese battery and EV companies can drive traceability adoption by requiring origin-specific ESG data, especially to meet downstreaming EU or US standard. Second, through bilateral green mineral cooperations, such as the agreements, the 2024 Indonesia-China MOU, create avenues to jointly develop and pilot traceability and ESG system. However, if Chinese company prioritize cost and output over transparency or restrict data access, their dominance may instead impede the development of independent public interest traceability system. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hanif, for the very insightful into the nickel sector from Indonesia. He already mentioned about a very important word about traceability. So it's all about what we can trade, quality, and also how to make it really happen. I think Professor Hanif also mentioned in interoperability and transparency. So those are two words that we have heard since we talk about digital integration and right now in the green supply chain. So it's come back again. And with that one, it needs not only one country or maybe like couple, but the whole region and also the trading partner who build a system that connect together. That remind us about the fragmentation. That's already issues about ASEAN. How can we connect together? And with that one, I think in terms of the, like nickel sector here, you can see all the effect. It's not only about econ, but social and also sustainability. So with that one, when we design and make it really happen in terms of connecting and traceable for the product is very important. So one good example from Indonesia about Simera can be one good example because you have rich in terms of nickel. And another thing that very important is about enforcement. So when we talk about trading the real things, the tangible ones, so it go to the system and enforcement and also how to make it really happen become the center of our discussion here. And I think with this example, it kind of like really complement quite good with Professor Tong's presentation. So thank you very much. With that one, let me move on to the third presenter. We have Mr. Bunpiang Phungphet Langsi. He is the Acting Director of Human Resource Development Division, Institute of Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, NACT Lao. So he's going to present on steering EV transition, the case of Lao. So Mr. Bunpiang, the floor is yours.
Thank you, moderator. Distinguished speakers and colleagues from ASEAN and China Think Tank Network. First of all, I'd like to thank NACT Thailand and NACT China for co-organizing this significant workshop. It is a great honor for me to take part in these discussion sessions. And today, what I'm going to do is to talk about EV transitions within Lao PDR. And before doing that, let's take a look at the global EV transition or trends. Global EV sales in 2025 reached 20 million in 2025, or which is 1 in 4 car sales was EV. And it's projected to be increased to 20 million in 2026, by 2026, or 28% of new sales. Among these trends, China produced 75% of EV in 2026, which increased 15% compared to 2025. And of course, China's produced 80% of global battery productions. Our regions, it's the destinations of these trends, or this growth of EV industries. And ASEAN's markets for EV, it's growing rapidly or very fast, with Vietnam, Thailand as the leading countries. And in this market, in the region, Chinese brand can capture over 50% of the share. What are the drivers for the global EV growth? Actually, there are this growth is driven by a number of factors. First, it's climate commitments, so that is net zero emissions. The second, it's advanced and cheaper battery techs, which makes EV more affordable than ever before. And of course, geopolitics, it's playing a big role in this growth or in these trends. That is geopolitical push. The conflict in the Middle East has driven up the global oil price. Sometimes, some people define it as energy crisis, which make EV more attractive to customers. And in some cases, it's a must. Allow me to share the experience of Laos, my personal experience. In April, when the global oil price hits the world, Laos, it's one of the nations that has been affected by these shocks. That time, people couldn't find the petrols or diesels to travel to work. We had to stop. The government applied the policy to allow the people to work from home. That time, that's not enough, because people still need to go out to travel, to see friends, to visit family, or to even go out buy food that time. And it became a must for us to get EV. And third, it's infrastructure expansions that focus on ultra-fast charging stations that is more convenient for the EV users. And what are the impacts of micro and macro impacts? And of course, the first one is financial relief. Many EV users can save a lot of money on their travel or their transportations. For instance, by April 2026, the annual forecast saving for EV users in Europe can save about 35% compared to the previous years. And of course, globally, EV trends, EV growth trends can reduce 1.7 million barrels of oil per day, which can mean a reduction of emissions, which is good for the environment and which can make contributions to achieving climate targets. And of course, this rapid growth of EV industry has altered global manufacturing patterns, resulting in increasing or unprecedented demand for critical minerals such as nickel, lithium, cobalt, manganese, and rare earth elements, just like our colleagues or the previous speakers just mentioned earlier. As a result, resource-rich economies or countries, including Laos, are at risk exporting raw materials only just to buy back more expensive finished products, including EV. Now, let's take a look at the case of Laos. For Laos, when it comes to EV transition, it's not just about the environmental aspects or the benefits for the environment, but it's more about urgent and macroeconomic survival. Laos depends on imported fossil fuels over the years. And energy crisis or fuel price shocks has speed up the EV transitions in Laos over the last few years. And of course, EV transitions can help the country to protect foreign currency reserves, because this transitions allows the country to reduce fossil fuel imports. What are the policy or strategy that the government is applying in order to boost EV transitions in the countries? The key instrument is tax exemptions and lowered registration fees for EVs. In addition, the government of the Lao Peter is temporarily suspending petrol and diesel passengers vehicle imports, which started on the 1st June 2026 until now, which is more than 1 month ago. And of course, in order to lead by example, the government plans to convert its vehicles into EV by 50%, just to take the lead. And another interesting strategy is to divert hydropower to transportation electrifications. And in order to speed up or to boost the EV adoptions, the government has signed MOU with 27 public and private companies to expand infrastructure and supply, as well as financings. What is more important is that it's about quality controls. The National Steering Committee has been established to oversee the EV promotions and strict imports to authorized companies with domestic service centers only. In addition, expanding electric trucks. It's another important area that we're looking into in order to leverage the domestic hydropower in order to reduce diesel imports. With this policy in place, Laos aims to achieve 30% of EV by 2030. And as a result of the implementations or the promotions of EV, we have more than 17,000 EV on the road in Lao PDR. With a total number of vehicles within the country, it's almost 3 million across the nations. And in 1 year alone, there are more than 4,000 of EV imports in 1 year. And now there are more than nearly 20 fuels distributed now turn to sell EV in the nation. Beyond restructuring its domestic energy consumptions, Lao Peter is redefining its positions in the regional manufacturing supply chains by banning exports of raw ores or raw minerals, and promoting domestic processing of minerals. Because the nation's economic outputs in the past in the industrial sector has been dominated by the upstream extractions, exporting raw minerals or raw materials to other countries. The long-term goal is to shift the countries from low-margin trade of raw ores to high-margin value-added industrial components. And in order to achieve that goals, Laos has to attract manufacturing-oriented FDI to the countries. And also, we have to utilize the existing transport infrastructure like the Lao-China Railway for export, and expanding, developing the new infrastructure to support logistics. What are the major opportunities around promoting EV or EV adoption in Lao Peter? Of course, the first thing is that Laos is able to reduce imports costs of fossil fuels, thereby addressing trade deficits and protect foreign currency reserves. In addition, when it comes to micro levels, especially the EV users themselves, they're able to save up to 70% on their transportations compared to the petrol cars. At a micro level, EV adoptions, if fully implemented by 2030, Laos will be able to save almost $1 billion annually from the reducing fossil fuel import bills, which previously the country spent almost $2 billion annually importing the fossil fuels every year. And then, of course, operating costs, lower operating costs through hydropower, it's one thing that we think about. Another interesting and potential is that it offers us to encourage local EV assembly. And environmentally, we are going to make a contributions to achieving climate target that is zero emissions. Well, many people say things are easier said than done. And I agree, because there's still many challenges around when it comes to EV translations or adoptions within the countries. I don't know other countries would have the same experience or similar experience. The first critical challenge that we have to address is charging grid constraint, an uneven charging station network or points. If you look at the slides, we have Locar. It's one of the charging station provider within the countries. They have 40 charging stations across the nations, and then 22 of the stations, which means more than half, are condensedly located within Vientiane capital city. And the rest, like only one, or even smaller province that is in the south, 1, 2, 3 province, the smaller province, they don't even have one charging stations. That's why when it comes to traveling, it's okay if you travel within city, major city like Vientiane. If you travel from Vientiane to the outside or to provinces, like, it's not really convenient. And some people are not able to find charging stations. That's why they are still not confident to get EV. Personally, for me, actually I came from the south, which is quite far from Vientiane, about 6 km away. I got EV, but I mainly use daily within Vientiane, from home to work. Whenever I want to travel to my hometown, I decided to select petrol car instead, because you can travel straight, like 1 hour, 10 hours, non-stop. But with EV, you have to stop and look for charging stations to charge. That takes longer time. Apart from physical infrastructure challenge, Laos still face the lack of technical workforce and inadequate maintenance centers. Then, for the people who got EV, even they live nearby, the provinces nearby Vientiane capital city, whenever they want to access to maintenance or whenever they have technical issues, they have to travel to Vientiane, which is not easy for them at all. In addition, we're talking about EV. I'm thinking about the fact that we don't have battery recycling facility within the countries. Because I heard from people that sometimes the battery can last for some years and then you have to replace it. And another thing is that the provincial and mountainous areas apart from Vientiane capital city, the geographical locations are mountainous, and not really suitable for the people to get EV. And then, of course, high upfront investment, meaning that EV is still expensive in Laos. Even the government applied the policy, pricing policy, tax exemptions, but when it comes to actual price in the market domestically, they're still expensive. What's more, people are still concerned about the range or the actual distance that EV can travel. And then there were flood safety concerns. And also the resale ability of EV. It's unlike petrol cars that can hinder the people from making decisions either to get EV or not. And in order to promote a green partnership or cooperation between ASEAN and China, I have some recommendations as follows. First, it's important that we harmonize standards, including charging interface or a communication protocol within the regions. And it's also vital that we expand infrastructure for EV, including charging stations and maintenance centers. Like I said earlier, without maintenance centers, it's not easy for EV owner to get things repaired or maintenance or even update the software system in their EV. In addition, it's also important to tie FDI to tech transfer to protect the host country's interests and also to promote employment within the country. Last but not least, it's vital to expand research and development and technical force training, especially in the area of maintenance. And for Laos, in order to address the issue of the lack of technical workforce, Laos and China decided to jointly build local EV maintenance training center that focus on vocational training and testing facilities, as well as curriculum design. The center is located within Vientiane, capital city. To sum up, Laos demonstrates a strategic EV transition, hydropower logistics, strengthen energy sovereignty, and of course, grid upgrades, infrastructure development, and human capital are the key that we need to have in hand in order to speed up the EV transitions or adoptions. With that being said, I'd like to stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bunpiang, about example in case of EV transition in Laos. So he already mentioned about both sides of the market, demand and supply. So where the demand is coming up is maybe the same with the other in the region as well and to other country because of the situation in climate commitment, advanced technology, make the price more reasonable, and also the conflict in the Middle East. That from the demand side and the situation of the EV market in Laos, and we can hear from his presentation. Importantly, about the supply side, what is the direction from the government in terms of, I think the keyword is right into how to shift from the low margin raw material into the high value added production. So that's the key for the value-added industry. And he already mentioned about like many challenges that Laos is facing in terms of the charging station, also the technical workforce. And I think many countries, Thailand as well, we share the same challenges over there and high upfront costs. But the important part is what should be next. He already mentioned clearly about how to harmonize the standard. Also, the FDI is a key channel for development, R&D, and importantly, how about the people, capacity building. So that is for the case of Laos. I think we have around 5 minutes for that one. So maybe let me open the floor for questions. So if you have the question, please state it, and maybe to the speaker, you want to deliver to, or maybe to all the speakers? So maybe take 2 questions first for this round. Yes, please.
Hi. Good morning, everyone. I'm Narut Charansi from the School of International Affairs and at Faculty of Political Science and Public Administration at Chiang Mai University. I do have a question regarding Laos' experience on EV management. I have a question. When we have, I don't know technical terms for this. Once we have, when the battery died and we have to change or to keep it somewhere, what would be the regulations or mechanisms or what kind of method that you use or recycle, or not recycle, like keep all the broken EV battery? I want to know the experience from Laos. Thank you.
Maybe we take the second question and maybe, in case someone can join.
Thank you. I'm Liao from Singapore. So I have a question for Professor Hanif actually about Indonesia, the nickel or the mining sector. I wonder, so to move up the supply chain, you have processing or have more value added. What's the constraint for now? So in addition to attract FDI and the capacity talents, so in terms of infrastructure, like the power supply or the road, any other constraint, major? Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. So we have 2 questions here. For Mr. Phupet, it's about how to deal with the broken EV battery and management for that one. Maybe start with case of Laos first, please.
Right. Thank you very much for the question. Just like I mentioned in my presentation earlier that we don't have the recycling facilities. I heard some people that need to change or replace their batteries, their dead batteries. They usually just keep in the maintenance centers within Vientiane, and I don't know if they have some ideas to utilize the dead battery for the other purpose. Because I saw on the internet, on the news, that Thailand can turn that not really dead battery. It's like function not effectively battery. It can turn into power sources for lighting the house or the home or even the farms, but we don't have that initiative or that idea being implemented in the countries. That's why it's a concern when it comes to managing the dead battery. I think we need to have the capacity to recycle the dead battery for the sake of the environmental health. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's a good starting point that, we have to talk more. This is what we need it, we demand for it. So maybe some more collaboration in the future also for the region. So for the second question to Dr. Hanif, for the moving up, what do we need from there? Yeah, please.
Yeah, there are some constraints if we are talking about how the Indonesian government tried to enhance the downstreaming strategies, because downstreaming actually is only one partial part of what we call it the green industrial policies. So the first step that what the government of Indonesia already taken is not just banning the ore export. So this is the first thing that we have to emphasize. Rather, the Indonesian government and then try to enhance more downstreaming activities in some area nearby nickel extractions in Indonesia, especially in the 3 provinces that I mentioned in the eastern part of Indonesia. Of course, there are still some of key issues here. First is about the policy coordinations. We cannot enhance the downstreaming without strong policy coordinations. So this happened in Indonesia. We have what we call it the coordinating ministry of investment and maritime in that time that have a very, very powerful authorities to coordinate amongst the ministries and agencies in the governments. Because, these downstreaming policy has also involved various ministries, from the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources in Indonesia, Ministry of Trading, and Ministry of Industry, and also Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So the problem is now many business actors complaining about this capacity after the regime change. So it's really rely on the commitments and the political regimes. And currently, the new president in Indonesia take a very strong decision that makes the only agency that can export the ferronickel, only the ferronickels, and palm oil is the government state-owned enterprises. We call it Danantara Indonesia, the superpower holding companies in Indonesia. So it's become a new uncertainty for some business actors, because the change of the political regime also changed the policies and regulations. The second one you mentioned about this power supply. This is also the paradox, because the industrial parks are in Sulawesi Islands, not in the Java Island, the most well-equipped island in Indonesia, I mean, in some of the infrastructures. So the way that government provide the power supply, for instance, use the coal-based power plants. So it seems like ironic when you are dedicating these EV batteries for the climate mitigation, but in the same time, you also using the coal-based power plant. It's something ironic, right? So we have the sacrifice zone here in some of the socio-environmental problem. So it seems like, so there's still discussion about these issues, because most of the coal-based power plant in Indonesia is covers 60% of the total Indonesia energy resources until now, and still have a very strong dominant. So it's also one of the issue here. Another issue is about the knowledge transfer and technology. I mentioned about the Chinese company with their own technology. We call it HPL. They can transform this low-grade nickel into a battery-related nickels commodities. There are some discussion about to what extent actually the Chinese company want to transfer this technology, because we are really rely on this the Chinese company, and we still really dominated by the Chinese company in this investment. So, in one hand, the strong control of the Chinese company. So the government of Indonesia now try to as more equal negotiation with the Chinese company operating in the smelters and refineries industry, by using, this is the interesting things in Indonesia, what we call it the quota, because the government can try to negotiate about the tax and royalty and others fiscal incentive in one hand. In other hands, this company which are operating in this smelter area cannot get more nickel ore. We really rely on how the government decide. Because in Indonesia, the only authority that can decide this company to extract how many tons in this company is coming from the government. Every year, the government decides every company about the quota of any mineral resources. So this is the way that the government to control and try to negotiate with the Chinese company in the industrial park. So there are some constraints. First, of course, is about the institutional constraint of the political regime, the change of the policy. Also about the policy coordinations. Also about the infrastructure, because you rely on dirty, quote-unquote, energy resources, especially the coal-based power plant in Indonesia. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Maybe any one or two questions? Yes, please. Or two, okay, please. Sorry, Professor. Yeah. You can be first as well. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm Pakon Kachri from Chiang Mai University. I would like to ask for the next China. Initially, you mentioned a lot for the SOE that they are for the key player in the green transition. Initially, I just curious that for now, for the private company also for the main player, for the example for the BYD and also for the CATL. So how can ASEAN cooperate with both SOE and also for the private company that to ensure that for the fair competition and also for the data governance and equal market access?
This is a very specific question related to the industry. Actually, I think the good thing is that we see this kind of policy response. You know, last year and this year we have series of documents, laws, and regulations towards these SOEs. So exert normative pressure. You know, as I mentioned, the goal setting in 2030 and 2035. These major companies, they need to, you know, what I mean is for those SOEs, not for private, sectors. They have their own interests, and the government, the Chinese government, can directly control those SAEs because those affiliated. But for private sector, they got this kind of direction. So right now, what we can see is China is really making this progress in green transition, and the U.S. is staying inactive, and the EU, exert those kind of barriers for green trade. So right now, maybe we need to, maybe from ASEAN's perspective outside, we need to preserve this green transition momentum. I think that is very important, and then we can forge this kind of directions for private sector, maybe for civil society, for various actors. Those are the next steps, as I believe. Thank you.
Thank you. So next, invite Professor Yang Ye and then Mr. Fahad. Please.
All right. Thank you, moderator. I have a couple of questions to Dr. Hanif. The first one is about the U.S.-Indonesia reciprocal trade agreement you mentioned in your presentation. I'm wondering how is it progressing, and actually, is there any possibility of the implementation of this agreement? Because I note that there is there are some articles about like the supply priority to the U.S. and also about China. So I want to know the trend of about this trade agreement. And secondly, in China, especially academia, there are lots of discussions about the Indonesian government recent adjustments or policy changes to the nickel mining policies. I also visited Jakarta last month and also visited some Chinese enterprises, but not nickel mining enterprises. So I note that they are heavily affected by these policies, and also China-Indonesia Chamber of Commerce also wrote a letter to the government. So my question is, I'm wondering the motivations of these policy changes for the Indonesian government. Is there also any geopolitical reason behind? Yes. And also I have a question about these new recent adjustments. So what's the impact on kind of the regional cooperation on mining? Actually, I'm wondering what role does Indonesia wish to play in critical minerals cooperation within ASEAN? I note that Indonesia and the Philippines, right, has done something like to build the nickel corridor. So I'm wondering the role of Indonesia in critical minerals cooperation within in the region. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Professor Yang. It's quite tough questions. I mean, because even for us, for the Indonesian scholars, it's not easy to identify what happened with the government now, because of the change of the current presidents, and he has his own style, political style, that we sometimes we cannot predict what he wants. It seems like Trump's style in United States. Maybe every time when he stated something, it can be a policy. So that's why it become more as uncertainties in Indonesia business environment currently, not only I think affected to the Chinese investment. For instance, as I mentioned, there are some complaining from the Chinese investor, right? I mean, regarding to these nickel's adjustment policy, when the government decide to make sure that the Indonesia Danantara, the new holding company, superpower holding company arranged by the government as the only exporter for the ferronickel and palm oil, for instance, like this. Also, in some area, the government also try to enhance this super holding company to take over some investment in industrial park like Indonesia Wedabai. So this Danantara currently try to negotiate with the Aramid, for instance, to get more shareholder in these activities. I mean, in this investment. So yeah, this is quite tough. I mean, because it's also when we are talking about the U.S. reciprocal trade agreement, because sometimes we don't know what actually the government already deal with the U.S. Government, because the new government also didn't want to share publicly and more transparent to the publics. So when you ask about to what extent this did already implemented, of course there are some issues regarding to this. For instance, as I mentioned, maybe it can be bypassing the negotiations between the Indonesian government, because there are two, major negotiations currently between the European Unions with the Indonesia trade agreement. It's more institutionalized negotiations. It has been taken for long, especially for two main commodities in Indonesia, palm oil and mineral resources. And the second one is the U.S. reciprocal trade agreement. Is more personalized negotiation. It seems like Trump and Prabowo. So what is the impact of this, the change to the Indonesia cooperation in terms of the regionals? Again, it's not easy for me. Because it seems like our president currently tried to get more friends from anywhere. So 1,000 friends, 0 enemies, something that we are always talking about when we are talking about the foreign affairs policy. But sometimes it can be something uncertain or unclear strategies. I think we need to discuss. I'm personally why I cannot explain it further, because there are some. Again, when the president decide this one, and really it's very strong president's decisions compared to the previous. That's why, for instance, I mentioned before about the policy coordination in Indonesia. Currently, another problem with the Indonesian governments, to be honest, not easy to get. So the investor need to meet one by one the ministries currently, because there is no, again, the strong policy coordination in this nickel. Last week, I met some business actors in Indonesia, and the main thing that they mentioned, they said, we miss these strong coordinators in this business because no longer there currently. So I don't know whether I already answer your question, because it's quite complicated in terms of So there are some strong personalized presidential decision that change everything in Indonesia current politics. So it also affected to how the Indonesia government continue their own downstreaming strategies in the domestic level. And the regional level, we also sometimes we cannot predict what happens in this next step, the presidential next step, something like that, Professor Yang. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry for the tough question.
It's okay. It's okay.
Thank you very much. So the last question from Mr. Fahad, please.
Okay, I'll make it very quick because I know I'm standing between everyone and lunch. So this question goes out to Mr. Liang Dong, and your suggestions, I do agree with them in terms of for the China-ASEAN cooperation, particularly into critical minerals. However, as RE is being respected as more of a sovereign issue, especially due to its value increasingly year on year and its utilization in defense technologies in particular, China has rightfully been very careful and strict in sharing their technology in terms of the technological know-how, both in mining, downstream, and all the way into permanent manufacturing. Hence, out of all your solutions on cooperation between China and ASEAN, which in particular do you think is the most likely where we can find actual cooperation, and particularly from ASEAN's perspective, it would definitely include technological sharing, particularly in processing and perhaps metallurgy as well. So which of the solutions do you think is the most likely in that sense for China to actually share technological know-how with ASEAN? Thank you.
Thank you so much for your question on technology transfer. I think there is a kind of dilemma, from the government side. We have declared we want to share green technology, and we said President Xi Jinping said we need to share cheap, affordable, and good used, and also something that you can apply it, in your country. Those kind of technology, but we also know that even for SOE, they have own interests in protecting those technologies. So maybe it's incremental. I think we can realize those initiatives from the government. And for climate and green technology transfer, we also have other channels from the UN, the CTCN, the transfer center by the UNFCCC. So it has their own logic. You need to supply something that you need to solve, and then they will make assessment, and they will try to get some, third-party participants. So various ways, institutionalized and bilateral and multilateral. So we need to fully utilize those different kind of platforms to make, green technology transferred, to at least the developed countries and to developing countries. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So that's very insightful into the case of the green transition and how to develop the supply chain in terms of create more value added. So I think I would like to thank you all, the three speakers, for the very excellent presentation and very insightful knowledge that we have here. And also thank you for all the questions. So please give a round of applause. And I think we can continue the discussion during the lunchtime. So back to Dr. Nisit, please.
Thank you very much. I think from this morning we already have done pretty well, performance and also very fruitful discussion. So it's a lunch time. So please enjoy your lunch, and we have about 1.5 hours. The same floor that we had for the participant, that is from the breakfast. So we come back at 2 p.m. local time. Okay, local time. All right. So discuss more during the lunch, and thank you so much, and come back. Thank you.